Hello, amazing artists. Today is day 2 of Princess and the Pea. Today we're going to add color to our pictures. We're going to use crayon and watercolor paints. So you need some crayons, watercolor paint palette, a brush or two, and a cup full of water. You need to think about when you're adding color, what colors complement each other or look good next to each other. Remember, complementary colors are across from each other on the color wheel. And you also need to think about not putting watercolor paint right next to watercolor paint that's still wet. Because you know when you do that, if you remember from last year in art class, when you do that, your colors bleed together sometimes. And for this project, you probably don't want that because you want each mattress or featherbed to be a separate color. All right, let me show you how I did mine. When you are coloring with crayon, you can start anywhere on your picture you want. So just pick a pattern that you like and color it in. Something to think about when you're coloring these. Something that I did was I tried to color every other mattress so that when I painted, I wouldn't have wet paint next to wet paint and the colors wouldn't blend together. So push down nice and hard, use even color if you want, or even pressure to get even color. If you would like to create value, which is like a fade from a light orange to a dark orange, you can vary your pressure. But unless you're doing it intentionally, try to keep all the pressure the same. If you have any areas that you want white, I would color them white. That way when you go to paint over that area, it'll stay mostly white and you won't get paint in those areas. Crayons are a dry medium, so you can have your hand resting on top of them and they usually won't smear very much. If you were painting, if we had started with paint, we would have started either at the top or on the left side of our picture. But for when you're working with crayons or markers that dry really quick, that doesn't matter as much. So I just goofed and I started painting at the bottom, and I just ask you to, if you're using a wet medium, to start at the top or on the left side, but that's okay because I will stay away from that area with my hand. So the main thing to remember when you're using watercolors is get whatever colors wet first on your palette that you want to use and let that water kind of sit there on the paint and moisten the cake or the paint cake. The other thing to remember is do not put wet paint next to wet paint. The third thing I'd like for you to know is if you want to mix colors, you can do it in the lid of your paint palette. I can do it right on my watercolor cake because I don't share my paint with anybody. So I can just take clean water and clean off that color when I'm finished with this project. But if you're having to share paint with somebody, you don't want to mix right on the paint cake. You want to mix in the lid. Okay, boys and girls, be thoughtful about how you're adding color to your pictures. Use complementary or contrasting colors to make your illustrations and all your patterns really stand out and to make your picture super colorful. I'd like to give you as much time as possible to finish this because I think it's going to take you about 35 or 40 minutes to finish coloring these in. I'll see you next time.